things started getting a little dicier when I started figuring out my gender. And I first came out to my parents as non-binary and basically being like, something is going on with my gender and I don't know exactly what it is, but...
And you first talked to them about this when you were in college?
Yeah, it was
once you left the house already?
Yeah, it was towards the end of college. Yeah, I didn't have like a set thing that I wanted to like proclaim to them, but I was just like, I know that I'm not a man. Like I'm not this thing that I've been told to be my whole life.
Welcome to Identified, where we explore, challenge, and redefine the traditional concepts of family and identity. In this episode, I'm joined by music producer, model, activist, and co-creator of Tranza, Massima Bell.
Yeah, I grew up kind of all over the eastern half of the US. I was born on a farm in Iowa City, but my parents divorced when I was really young, so I grew up mostly with my mom. My mom and my older brother, and eventually my mom remarried and I had like a younger brother that I also kind of like grew up with. And we moved around a lot because my mom was getting a PhD and she was doing like a postdoctoral fellowship and then getting her professorship and position and all this stuff.
Right, so were you in like college towns like Iowa City, like other
we
places
were in Chicago for 5 years and then in Maryland, like close enough to the National Institutes of Health for my mom's fellowship, but like in like a kind of like smaller town area called Frederick, where people sometimes like to call themselves Frednecks. So very interesting kind of place.
Okay.
And then Buffalo, New York. That was the last 2 years of high school, where my mom got her professorship. So I grew up a lot. I would always spend summers and winters at my dad's farm in Iowa, which is where I was born, where he has lived pretty much his entire life.
Oh, okay.
And it's this like 100-year-old farmhouse that is on 200 acres of cornfield.
Wow. Like real America.
Yeah. Real America, yes. But yeah, I had this kind of dichotomy between mostly kind of more urban, sometimes suburban landscapes, and then this deep, like rural kind of farm life.
Yeah. And did you like that, the sort of combination?
For me, as a kid, I think I loved getting to have these like vacation times in Iowa. And I think when I was growing up, I didn't necessarily appreciate some of the access to that land and like the nature and how beautiful and powerful it is. I was definitely like, I think because of my transness was kind of like an escapist and like wanted to just play video games or like be in like reading fantasy books and like not engaging with my like reality around me. But I loved getting to have this like escape to this place that like I really only knew my direct family that I would spend time with in Iowa, like my dad and my grandparents and aunts.
So they're all there in the same cities.
Yeah, it's like my dad is on that farmhouse where he lives alone, and then my grandma lives in this other farmhouse that's like a 5-minute drive.
Oh wow.
And so she was living there with my grandpa, like all growing up. And then my aunts all like live like around.
Oh wow.
So it's there's a lot of family out there.
I was born in New York and lived in Cambridge, Massachusetts with my mother. We moved a lot because she was in school. Similar stuff, getting her MBA at UMass. And then we lived in New York, but when I was in 6th grade, I think 10 years old, we moved to Salt Lake City where I finished high school. I actually loved Salt Lake, but my uncle, who I'm very close with, lived in New York that whole time. And so I would spend summers and often Christmas or sometime the fall or spring with him. And I loved it as a kid. I mean, of course, I got along great with both of them, but I loved the back and forth. When I was in Salt Lake, I really missed New York. When I was in New York, I don't know if I missed Salt Lake. I missed my friends. I missed the things that, like, a teenager misses. But I think there's something really unique and cool about kind of living in two different places and liking and hating things about each of them.
Yeah. I mean, I think I now I really appreciate that because I think it's such like a rare blessing to have that kind of access to nature and like be in this like vast landscape.
Yeah.
And yeah, getting to still go back there as an adult is just such a blessing. And I think there's a lot of people who don't get to have access to a place that is this like deep family home that they've known their whole life, that their family has like had their whole lives and stuff. So I definitely feel really blessed to have some kind of like access to that. But it's also really interesting because there's all this tension, particularly I feel like in the present moment that we're living in, between these kind of cultural spaces in America, like between this like rural and urban kind of spaces.
Right.
Yeah, when I say rural, I particularly mean these like culturally like white and poorer places that have, that like...
That's interesting, because that's kind of what rural means, right? Because when I think rural, I think like middle of nowhere, quiet. But it is more of a cultural thing than a location thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's become, at least. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know, when I go and spend time in Iowa, I don't necessarily feel at home with just the way that people are in that landscape. It's sort of sad to me because that landscape is really powerful and really magical. Just like Iowa is this prairie landscape that has this, it's like now over 99% of that prairie is gone and it's all cornfields and soybean and stuff. But there's this power that the land has that you especially feel in the summer, where it's just so like excruciatingly alive. It's like almost like painfully alive when I go there, and I'm like just taken with that. Just
and you still feel that on your family's land. It still feels
like that. Yeah. There's just like this deep, like verdant quality to the land, and it's just really powerful. But then, there's this thing with like the way that people act in that land that has always been kind of, it feels like this stark contrast to the
yeah. Do you feel like, do you have to sort of act differently when you go there, or I don't really know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, do you feel as comfortable when you're there as you do in Los Angeles?
I don't think I do. Yeah. And I think I feel comfortable around my family. Like my family who's out there is really loving and supportive. But if I am like trying to engage with any of the like whatever, like establishments or just like going around to the towns and stuff, it definitely does not feel as comfortable as I feel here in LA.
Right. It's weird. So much of America's like, I toured a lot in bands, which was always like, and my father's black, my mother's white, and that's always just something that I think about and makes me feel uncomfortable in a lot of spaces. Maybe unnecessarily, but still, it's something that's in my head. And driving across America was always like, be careful, be careful. Okay, we're in a college town. Everything's totally fine. And then be careful for 5 more hours. But I actually did a book event in Iowa City and drove there from Lawrence, from somewhere nearby. The drive was great. It was, when I was alone in the car, it felt totally fine. But I remember that same feeling that I hadn't felt in years. And I pulled into the town. I was like, this is great. I'm in like a college town. Right. I see some people of color over there. And there's some professors. There's a vegetarian restaurant. Everything's fine. But like, that's just that one little pocket.
And that's where I'm from is 15 minutes outside of Iowa City.
Right. Which is probably different.
Yeah. So it's like, it's really, it's there's these strange dichotomies where like the closest town to the farmhouse is this town of like 2,000 people called West Branch. So it's this like very different vibe there. But then, you'll go not far and you'll be in Iowa City, which is this very liberal college town. And it's there's these stark contrasts.
What was it like growing up? Like, did you know as a kid, your single mother essentially in a different city than your father, moving between cities? Do you feel like you had a normal childhood, or were there other kids that had a similar background, similar family situation, or did you stand out in a very traditional town? I
think the thing that stood out compared to even like all my friends that I would make would be the fact that I had this kind of transientness, because we moved a lot. And even like when my parents first divorced, and then we were in Iowa for a couple of years, we moved around a lot in Iowa and stuff.
Right.
So I always had this experience of being sort of continually uprooted. And I know like my older brother has felt a lot of like pain and hurt about that. But I think for me, I didn't necessarily take it that way. And maybe it's just some different quality in us. But I think that my life journey wasn't about staying and rooting in one place. And then maybe that has to do with being trans and trying to find myself in a certain way. But ultimately, I think that those kind of like forced uprootings made me kind of continually try to practice forming new relationships and becoming a different person and changing over time, which then like when I went to college in New York City, I kind of was maybe in some way prepped to be like, okay, now here's this huge shift to living to living alone and being in this huge city. And obviously like that was a difficult transition, but it also is like what gave me the space to ultimately explore my own gender and sexuality and stuff.
Interesting. That makes sense. I mean, I moved a lot as a kid, and when I went away to college right after high school, I remember thinking that part of it was relatively easy and fun to adapt to. It was like, oh, cool, another new place. Where am I going to put my stereo? But I'd moved 10 times in my life already.
Exactly.
I knew kids who were like, I've lived in one place since I was born, and now I'm in this dorm. How do you make ramen or whatever?
Exactly.
Kids who really, and that's also what's fun about doing something like that, is you have people from a huge, diversity of backgrounds who bring it all to. That's what's a lot of fun about going away to college, I think. But I do think, moving a lot as a kid made it easier for me to just adapt or make friends or get used to my space or whatever it was. I think it's generally definitely a good thing.
Yeah.
So you're in New York, and do you stay in touch with both your mother and your father when you're in college? Are you equally in touch with them or close to them?
I stayed in touch with them through college, yes. And then I'd say things started getting a little dicier when I started figuring out my gender. And I first came out to my parents as non-binary and being like, something is going on with my gender, and I don't know exactly what it is, but...
And you first talked to them about this when you were in college?
Yeah, it was
once you left the house already?
Yeah, it was towards the end of college. I didn't have like a set thing that I wanted to like proclaim to them, but I was just like, I know that I'm not a man. Like, I'm not this thing that I've been told to be my whole life. And then after their response to that was totally chill, like from both sides.
Did you talk? You didn't talk to them together because they're not together?
No, because they're not together, and they don't really talk.
So two separate conversations.
Yeah, two separate conversations.
That's twice as many as you want to have.
Yeah. But that didn't actually feel like the most intense coming out as this kind of like next coming out that I did after I graduated. Like they were totally chill.
That's great. I mean, this sounds unfair. I don't know them, but your dad in rural Iowa was totally chill, as opposed to your academic mother who was moving around.
Well, I mean, it's funny because my dad has a PhD from the University of Iowa, from that university in Iowa City. And they both are kind of these really progressive style parents. But okay, so like then their reaction to me coming out in that way was pretty chill. And I think that maybe it was more chill than when I came out as a trans woman and as someone who was going to take these irreversible kind of interventions on my body. I think that they had a rougher time with that. My dad was really good, actually. I remember hearing, like, when I came out to him after college, this was like 2015. Basically, I was in college from 2010 to 2015. I was sticking around. I did 5 years.
Oh, yes. I did 4.5.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. It was just too much fun in there. I knew that last semester that I was going to start hormone replacement therapy. And I set up the appointments and stuff to start it right after I graduated. And then I started hadn't told my parents. And then I think I told my dad first. And I just told him like, hey, I think I'm trans feminine. I actually didn't ID as like a trans woman when I started HRT. I was still figuring things out, but I was like, I'm starting hormone replacement therapy. And my dad, I just remember that phone call really vividly because he said to me just one word, congratulations, to me.
Wow.
Which was such a like plain and powerful statement.
Incredible.
But somehow it was like everything that I needed to hear, basically like my whole life. And yeah.
From the person you needed to hear it
Yeah,
from.
exactly. Yeah. And it was just so powerful. And I'm always struck by that moment because it was so simple. It was just one word. And yeah, that was a really beautiful experience. And then I think I had a rougher time with my mom because when I came out to her, when I said that I was starting HRT and I said to her that, you know, I'm trans feminine, like I think I might be a trans woman, la la la, she had a rougher time accepting that. And I think she wanted me to not go on HRT, not do these things that changed my body physically. And I think that really hurt because I was in such like a period of my life where I was struggling and I didn't know, I only knew that I needed these things. And to have those things be kind of rejected by my mom was hard.
Yeah.
And I actually like, it was too painful while I was going through that to kind of deal with her kind of processing and coming to terms with it, that I ended up not talking to her for a couple years. So I was like estranged from her for a period of time.
Was she trying to talk to you and you weren't talking to her, or did you just sort of separate?
She did try to talk to me to some degree, yeah. And I think I just told her that like, I can't handle this, or like I can't deal with this right now. And I mean, there's a lot I could say about that specific time in my life and like the trials of that time. But ultimately, like over the years, I've had these moments of reconnection to my mom basically on my own terms, where I've like handled these parts of my transition that were these huge trials, which, you know, like it was definitely harder to go through those without the support of my mom.
Yeah.
But I don't harbor a resentment towards her for that. I think she didn't have the pathway like laid out for her to understand how to respond to that.
Right.
And yeah, I don't fault her for that. Yeah.
And but you did end up eventually talking to her again and reestablishing your relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, so like I had these first 2 years of my transition where I was like really dealing with hormone therapy and then getting gender affirming surgeries that I knew that I needed to be able to basically like live in this body. And that chunk of time in my life was so hard, and like probably the hardest time in my life. And on all levels, it was like just dealing with these surgeries, dealing with being like underemployed post-graduation and like not knowing what to do with my life as I was trying to figure out what I needed to even exist in my body. And that when things, it's funny because like it's when things actually got easier in my life that then I had the space to try to heal like my feelings and my relationship to my mom. And that started with a lot of kind of like introspective, like meditation work, like loving kindness meditation, where I would like send her like just loving thoughts. And yeah, that was something that eventually like led me to be able to feel like, oh, I can reopen this kind of channel between her and me. And
yeah.
I know she expressed like a lot of regret and like apology about that time. And yeah, I think ultimately, like, it matters to me to try to repair that relationship, particularly like knowing that she wants to as well. Like just being able to like come to terms, like with where we both were like at that time, and try to really like empathize too with her as a parent, because you don't get the pathways laid out for you for how to respond to a child's transition. I mean, I feel like it's been more and more laid out for people. Like we see more and more examples of a parent loving their trans child and how to do that. But I do think even 10 years ago when I was coming out, like it was a different landscape, and
very different landscape.
Yeah. Like that was prior, I think that was prior to the whole like trans tipping point. That was like the Time magazine covers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You remember that era?
I do, yeah. Right. So a lot of parents probably read that article.
Yeah.
Did you call your siblings at the same time? I'm curious how they responded, and were they supportive? And remind me of their ages again. You said you're...
Yeah, so I'm 32, and my older brother is 18 months older than me.
Okay.
And then I have like a younger half brother and half sister.
Okay.
One on my mom's side, half brother on my mom's side.
Okay.
Half sister on my dad's side. And they're each like 12 years younger than me.
Oh, okay.
So they're born around the same time and stuff.
Right.
And I took longer to have a conversation with any of them basically about it, because I think I had a hard time even doing these first two like comings out to them. And it was more so my mom, my dad, who I think kind of talked about that with them. And I mean, it's interesting because my older brother was my like best friend growing up. And I was like always in some kind of like simultaneous like competition and like just, I don't know, just being a best friend while also like competing with him because I wanted to do better than him and everything.
Right, older brother. Yeah.
Yeah. And he has like in his adult life been this kind of more conservative person. Definitely like way more conservative than I am.
Or your parents.
Yeah, definitely, actually, yeah. I won't say who he voted for. But he has always expressed a lot of love towards me, even in coming out to him and him like seeing me in a new light. He's always been really caring about it, which I think is powerful because, you know, he is this conservative person who espouses these ideas that I think are really harmful. But he's still, I think when he has this kind of like bond, he's still able to have all this compassion and empathy for my experience. And I think that's not an easy ask for someone who holds those kind of views.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And I mean, as much as I think we're all trained to think that everything's like that binary, meaning like, you know, if you're on this side, you believe in this and that's all you can do. And if you're on this side, you believe in this and that's all you can do. And it's good to know that that's not completely true all the time.
Yeah, it's
people can be a bit more flexible and open. Hopefully.
Hopefully, yes. And I have seen that in some ways, you know.
What is family to you?
Family to me, that's a big question. I think it's been for me the people over time that I continually choose and that I build a relationship with over time. And I really don't think of like my bio family as like the centers of like what family means to me. And I think that's the experience that a lot of trans people have because we have a lot of difficulty with our bio family. And it's something that we kind of often wrestle with our entire lives. Yeah, there's this beautiful kind of chosen family that a lot of us develop. I think for me, family specifically has always really been the people that I call my sisters, which are these other trans women who I think I like can just relate to on such a deep level and who I can kind of immediately feel this deep sort of bond with. And I think that's because of similar ways that we've lived in the world and moved through the world and have to interface with the world. So yeah, I would say that my family, like my bio family, is definitely my family, and they are like a big part of this entire like familial style system that I feel that is like particularly centered around the sisters in my life, you know?
Right. Thanks for tuning in. Please consider subscribing to Identified wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss an episode. We're on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all other major streaming platforms. And be sure to explore identifiedpod.com, the place to gain a better understanding of family. Our executive producer is Kieron Banerji, and the show is produced by Palm Tree Island. The music for Identified is by Noella and Patricia Brennan. I'm Nabil Ayers. Thanks for tuning in.